So today we're going to talk about something we're all inside of, every single second of every day, but we barely ever think about it, the Earth's atmosphere. It's this vital, invisible shield that protects our planet. And believe me, it's way more fascinating than you might think.
Go on, just take a deep breath with me. In and out. You do that thousands of times a day, without even a flicker of a thought. But that one simple act, it's plugging you into one of the most complex, most essential systems on our entire planet.
That's right, the air we breathe. Think about it. We can go weeks without food, days without water, but only a few minutes without air. That simple fact makes this invisible ocean of gas all around us the most critical thing in our lives. It's not just empty space, not at all. So what is this thing, really? Well, the atmosphere is basically this amazing cocktail of gases, a little water, and even tiny dust particles that literally wraps around our planet. It's the reason life is even possible here.
Okay, first things first. Let's break down the ingredients. When you take that breath, what are you actually pulling into your lungs? Because the recipe for the air we breathe, yeah, it's got a few surprises up its sleeve.
All right, check this out, because here's surprise number one. We're always talking about how we need oxygen to breathe, right? And that's totally true. But get this, the air is mostly nitrogen, a whopping 78% of it. Oxygen is only about 21%. And that tiny 1% left over, well, that's where things get really interesting.
So, inside that 1%, we've got carbon dioxide. The best way to think about it is like a one-way mirror for heat. It lets all that sunshine in, no problem, but it's a little stingy about letting the heat back out. So even though it's just a tiny piece of the puzzle, its impact on our climate is absolutely massive.
Next up, we have water vapor. And you can totally think of this as the planet's blanket. Just like carbon dioxide, it soaks up energy from the sun and traps heat rising from the earth. It's what stops us from, freezing solid at night and boiling over during the day, creating those stable temperatures that life really needs to thrive. Okay, now for what might be the weirdest and most surprising ingredient of all, dust. Yeah, literally tiny bits of salt from the ocean, ash, even dust from meteors. They're all floating around us right now. See, water vapor is kind of helpless on its own. It can't just form a cloud out of nothing. It needs a little something to grab onto. It's crazy, right? Without this dust, we'd have no clouds, no rain, and pretty much no life as we know it.
Okay, so we've got our recipe for air. Now let's strap in and take a trip upwards and see how it's all put together. Because the atmosphere isn't just one big blob of air. Nope, it's divided into these really distinct layers, and each one has a specific job to do. So our journey begins right here, at the bottom, in the layer we all live in, the troposphere.
This is it. This is our home turf. Almost all of the water vapor and all that dust we talked about, it's right here, which means, you guessed it, this is where all the weather happens, all of it. It's the zone for all life, and just like anyone who's ever hiked a mountain knows, the higher you go up, the colder it gets.
All right, climbing higher, we leave our neighborhood and enter the stratosphere. And its job is totally different, but just as critical for us. The absolute MVP of the stratosphere has got to be the ozone layer. You can think of it as our planet's built-in, super powerful sunscreen. Its whole job is to soak up the sun's most harmful ultraviolet or UV radiation. And I mean, let's be clear, without it, life on the surface would be toast, literally.
So let's put these two side by side for a second. Down here in the troposphere, that's our home. It's where the weather is, and it gets colder the higher you climb. But up in the stratosphere, our sunscreen layer, things get weird. It actually gets warmer as you go up. Why? Because that ozone layer is busy absorbing all that intense UV energy. So you've got one layer for weather and the other for protection, both absolutely essential.
Okay, we're still going up. Next stop, the mesosphere. And if you thought the top of the troposphere was chilly, well, you haven't seen anything yet.
Welcome to the absolute coldest part of our atmosphere. The temperature just plummets here, all the way down to a mind-boggling -100 degrees Celsius. Oh, and fun fact, this is also where most meteors burn up. So next time you see a shooting star, you're actually watching a little piece of space rock vaporize in the mesosphere.
All right, we're almost at the top now, reaching the very edge of space, in these huge upper layers called the thermosphere and the exosphere.
So up here, the air is, well, it's incredibly thin. Barely there, really.
In the thermosphere, the sun's energy is so intense that it actually zaps gas particles and gives them an electric charge. This creates a special zone called the ionosphere. And this charged-up layer, it acts like a giant mirror in the sky for radio waves, which is what lets them bounce all the way around the planet. And then, above all of that, you have the exosphere. This is it, the final frontier where our atmosphere just, sort of, fades away into the blackness of space.
Okay, so we've looked at the recipe, we've toured all the different layers. Now let's zoom back out and just appreciate what this whole system actually does for us. I mean, how does it all come together to protect us?
Get ready for this because this fact is just staggering. 99%. Almost all of the atmosphere's stuff, the air, the water, all of it, is crammed into the first 32 kilometers above our heads. That means all our weather, all the air we breathe, all our protection, it's all happening in a layer around the Earth that is, relatively speaking, thinner than the skin of an apple. Isn't that wild?
So let's just run down the checklist of its most important jobs. It gives us the air we need to live. It keeps the planet's temperature from going crazy. It blocks deadly radiation from the sun. It creates the weather we depend on. And yeah, it even protects us from getting pelted by meteors. This isn't just a bunch of air, people. It is the most sophisticated, most perfect life support system you could ever imagine.
You know, when you boil it all down, it comes to this one simple, beautiful idea. The atmosphere does two things at once. It provides the very things we need to survive, while at the exact same time, it shields us from the very things that would destroy us. It's a nurturer and a guardian all in one.
So we've seen just how delicate this balance is, how just a tiny little change in the amount of a gas like CO2 can have these huge ripple effects on our climate. And that really leaves us with the critical question of our time. As we continue to change the recipe of our atmosphere, what do we need to do to make sure this vital shield, this invisible system that makes our entire world possible, stays that way? Something to think about for sure. Thanks for tuning in.